Here we go. We're streaming here on YouTube. This is our second stream this week, and I think our third one in October, maybe the fourth one in October. If you're jumping in and joining live, appreciate you jumping in here. Join the conversation. If you're watching this and it's not live, I would still highly recommend that you throw comments in there, because I will go back and respond to those comments, so you can absolutely still be part of this experience, part of the conversation, any questions you have. And yeah, if you throw something in the comments, suggestion of what we should talk about, things of that nature, we can always loop those in for the next one. But for any of you who are watching live, hit me with a like, but jump in the chat and help drive the conversation. So today we're talking about photography. It's a photography channel. That's what we always do. But also, it's a special stream because I do have here the Photo Zine that I have been spending really most of last year, all of this year working towards, and I finally have it here. So I'm going to unbox it here on the stream and open one of the zines and take a look, let you guys know what my thoughts are, and kind of tee up this photo book that I've been working towards for quite a while. You know, this was something that started in 2013. We also do have a little something playing in the background. Let me know if it gets too loud. But a little something fun for Halloween. I like to have a little different video going on each time. So, but yeah, the photo book thing, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you know that this is a goal that I've had for the really entirety of this channel, and it's a goal that precedes this channel. If you're new, welcome. But yeah, 2013, one of my many goals was to do a photo book, and very humbly, I had too many goals in 2013. I had like 3 or 4 different photography projects I was working on. I wanted to do the photo book, wanted to get in a gallery. There's so much stuff that I wanted to do. And I think because there was too much stuff to do, I didn't really get much done. Or at least I didn't get any concrete goals accomplished. And so when 2024 came around, it was like, okay, let's have less goals, but make it to where we can actually achieve the goals that we do have. And so that's where this photo book came into play, is, you know, me focusing in on not shooting 4 different photography series, but instead just shooting one photography series, which was the candy art. Because I did that, I produced way more content or way more photographs about that. And thus I had so much more to choose from when putting together the zine. So it really kind of worked out in that regard. I would say if you're someone who's like me and you have the tendency to give yourself too much to do, or to stack too many goals, maybe bring that down and just do like 1-2 goals for the year and see if you're more successful in like accomplishing those, because that has definitely been my experience. So I will definitely make that more of a priority in the future, to have reasonable goals, maybe even lofty goals, but not be hit with like 10-20 different goals, because yeah, that makes it really hard to achieve them. But because of that, we have the photo book, and it's here, and I'm excited to see what we've got. But I think we'll talk for a little bit leading up to opening. Maybe we'll go 10-20 minutes. And then we'll go to open up this photo book. Now, I've also set up a second camera over by my little micro studio that I can use as a backdrop to open this up and flip through a couple of the pages and give my thoughts on it. But we'll see if that works. I've got the lav mic here. So hopefully that will transmit everything correctly and the other things set up correctly. I used to stream back in the day, video game content, and I had a pretty elaborate setup with multiple mics and multiple cameras and green screens and all kinds of stuff like that. So hopefully any amount of that knowledge has been retained and I've set this one up correctly. But only the moment of will be able to tell. Welcome to the stream. First off, your timings with these chats is invariably appalling. Every time it's when I'm just heading out the door. I'll pursue at my leisure this evening. One of those zines has my name on it. Cheers, amigo. Hey, I appreciate it. Yeah, I feel like the proper time for me is always the worst time for you. That's when you're headed out. And with daylight, with the light of the sun, obviously you have to take advantage of that in the exact moment that it's available. Otherwise you go to bed and you just feel bad. It's like, dang, I didn't get out there in time, or I didn't get out there at all. Sometimes that's my problem, is especially with this window over here, I can see the light and there's a lot of trees out here. And so I can really see when the lighting is good, especially as like the sun is starting to set. And that's when I'm like, oh, I need to get out there. I need to go shoot. And then, all the things, come up. Oh, I don't know what to shoot. I don't know where I'll go to go do a little photo walk. So I'm just not going to do it. Or, I don't know which camera to use. And I don't want to go out with like 3, 4, 5, 10 different cameras. So, I'm going to skip this time. Or, the weather will be nice tomorrow too. And I'll feel more motivated tomorrow. So I'll do it then. And then of course, tomorrow comes and the weather is terrible. How that always happens to me, I don't know. Whatever day I say, I'll just go tomorrow. It'll be nice weather then too. It is never nice weather on that next day. It's always terrible. So, yeah. But then once the sun is completely set, that then I'm like, oh, I should have gone. I don't know if you guys are the same way, but if I'm ever feeling unmotivated and I don't go out and shoot, then the moment the sun has set, or like kind of the moment that it's officially too late to now go out and shoot, that's when I'm like, oh man, what a loser. I should have gone and photographed. I should have gone out. What was I thinking? But in the moment when I could go, that's when I'm like, oh, I'm tired. I'm not inspired today. Whatever it is. That's always the curse. And then the other curse is you do go out and usually you get good stuff, but every once in a while you go out and the weather's nice, but you just don't really get anything. And then you think, wow, I wasn't really that motivated. And, I went out anyway and I didn't get anything. And now I just feel like I could have just stayed home and had a relaxing evening. Too many variables, but we go out anyway because there's some great opportunities to really capture a moment or make yourself feel better, because equally you go out and you shoot something and, you leave feeling like, dang, I got something really good and I'm proud of that. And I'm also proud that I overcame my moment of not wanting to go out, and I got this really great image and I'm proud of it. And that made it worth it. It made me getting up off the couch, or it made me delaying my dinner or whatever it was so I could go shoot in the perfect lighting conditions worth it. So you never know what you're going to get. It's a little bit of a mixed bag, I would say. Maybe those of you who do street photography more than I do can let me know if that's the case. But yeah, we're going to be opening up this photo book. I guess we'll give it a few more minutes and then we'll crack into it. But I'm really excited because this is a goal that I've had for a while. And even though I envisioned things maybe a little bit differently at different periods in this process, I think it will have come together well. Now, I did end up doing everything myself, even though I mentioned multiple times I was going to have someone else do the design of the book. It's like I'll produce all the images, but partner with like a graphic designer to like come up with a good concept or a good theme. And I did really try, guys. I really did. I reached out to a number of graphic designers, some of whom never got back to me. So I'm like, I don't know how you do this as a job. But even the ones who did get back to me were kind of like either too expensive or, you know, saying, oh, you should just do this yourself, whatever it was. And so in the end, I did just do this myself. So what's in this box could be a horrible monstrosity. It could be terribly pixelated images that are crooked, and I'm hoping not. I'm hoping at the very least it's usable, because usually you don't get a refund on a book, you know. So yeah. But I also know a guy who is not a great dude, and he has produced multiple books. Now, they are, to my understanding, terrible books from people I know who have read them. But the fact that he's still produced probably 5 self-published books at this point, and he has actually like sold copies every time. It's not like people read the first one and they were like, wow, this is bad, and then never bought any from him again. It's like people still buy from him. So, and there could be so many reasons. Maybe they feel bad for him. I don't know. But I do think if he could do it, surely so could I. Now, he does it badly. Hopefully I do it well. But, and he's not a photographer or he's like a traditional author of stories. But yeah, the self-publishing game is a little bit tricky, but I have a feeling it's going to come out fine. Usually your worst case envisioning of something is not what it ends up being. So hopefully that will be the case for this. And I probably will also, if it comes out, well, I guess really regardless of how it comes out, I was gonna say, if it comes out good, I'll make a video about the zine and maybe my experience for anyone who's interested. I mean, there are far better videos online about how to make a zine, but maybe I can just speak to it from my personal experience. And I was gonna say only if it's good, but you know, if it comes out bad, that could be equally entertaining / educational. If I'm like, man, I tried to do it all myself and it looks like crap. Don't do it. Don't do what I did, you know. So we'll see. Either way, we'll send it to the spin room and spin it whatever way it needs to go. But yeah. Let's see. What else do we have? Oh, you know, I also kind of wanted to talk about and I'll talk about this briefly before we get to the photo book. And that way we're not just starting the stream and diving straight into the opening of it and then that's it. But this will probably also be a little bit shorter stream than the one I did on Monday, just out of necessity. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I was going to say, I've gotten a lot of comments on the Pentax 645D videos and even on a couple other videos that I've done, but I've done probably like 4, 5, maybe more than 5 videos that were related to the Pentax 645D, if not outright about it. And I see a comment routinely posted that I don't quite understand. And the comment is more or less along the lines of people criticizing the idea that the Pentax 645D is a affordable option to get into digital medium format. And they always cite the Fujifilm GFX 50S. and they say this is a cheaper camera and it's way better. Now there is truth to that. It could probably be argued pretty successfully that the Fujifilm GFX 50S is better than the Pentax 645D. Now that's an opinion. I would say the color science of the Pentax 645D and just like the incredible sharpness that you get from Pentax lens are a really strong advantage of the Pentax. The Fujifilm also has great color science, probably has really sharp image quality as well. I have heard from a few folks, and I have not researched this myself, but the idea that the Fujifilm 50S actually uses the same sensor as the Pentax 645Z, which is the successor to the Pentax 645D. We get a little confusing with all the numbers and everything, but the Pentax, it's an older camera and it takes a very long time to process images, 12 seconds after you've taken a shot. If you fill the buffer, you're looking at almost a full minute to clear that buffer. You can still shoot with the camera, mind you, but you can't review your photo. It's like the amount of time it takes to snap the photo and then save that to the actual SD card is anywhere from 12 seconds all the way up to a minute. And yeah, that's not good. That will slow your process down in a way that I think many people would find agitating. And for me, having come from shooting or medium format film, it feels, fine. I mean, it can be a little annoying. Obviously, the Fujifilm doesn't have that problem. And so, yeah, some people are going to view that as a better camera. And but when it comes to cost, and people are saying that is a cheaper, like, oh, you should just buy a Fujifilm 50S if you're interested in the 645D, it's cheaper. There is some truth and there is some untruth to that. So the truth is, in my very limited browsing of like eBay as an example, I looked at Pentax 645D, I looked at Fujifilm GFX 50S, and there are Fujifilms that are more expensive than the Pentax. There are Pentax that are more expensive than the Fujifilm. So it's like, okay, well, what's the average? And the average is that it probably favors the Fujifilm by 50 to 100 to maybe like $150 on average. That the Fujifilm is usually, what I was seeing at least in the one time I looked on eBay, was on average a little bit cheaper than the Pentax. That said, I picked up my Pentax 645D for $1,050. So, that's pretty cheap. I haven't seen any GFX go at or under $1,000. So I think if you're patient and you wait and you're looking, you can definitely find a Pentax 645D cheaper than a Fujifilm GFX. But maybe on average, I don't know if there's just more that are on eBay and there's a wider range of people selling. I don't know what the deal is, but yeah, you can find some more expensive Pentax 645Ds. I was finding some for like $1,800. And it's like, well, why is this one going for $1,800 when you have literally the listing below it going for $1,400? So there's that. Now, that's for the camera body. So we could maybe agree that the Fujifilm, on average, not necessarily the cheapest of the two cameras, but on average is cheaper than what the Pentax is going for in the used market, at least at the moment that I looked it up. But where the big difference comes into play is you don't do photography with just a camera body. You need a lens. And so you have to attach a lens onto that camera. Both cameras can adapt vintage lenses. Obviously, though, the Fujifilm being a mirrorless camera, it can adapt significantly more vintage lens. But I think for the majority of people, they're not using vintage lens as their only option. They also are looking at native autofocus capable lenses for this camera that they've bought. You know, they've spent at least $1,000 on this thing. You know, there's probably a few people out there who are like, oh, I only use vintage lens, and that's fine. I have vintage lens. But I think the idea that there's a significant portion of people who are just never going to buy the main, you know, autofocus lens designed for that system is just not realistic to me. So that's where the cost balloons and becomes totally different between these two. The Pentax lens, if you go with a autofocus Pentax lens, you're paying like $200 to $400. If you're closer to the $400 amount, you're getting like a mint condition lens. You can score a really nice lens for like $250 to $300, and it will have autofocus. It works with that system. It does all the electronics. Everything's communicating. Everything works great. On the Fujifilm side, if you pick up a native lens, you're paying 1,000, if not thousands. Like there's a kit lens that you can score for like 500 to 700 on the used market. But if you're looking for a better quality lens, if you're looking for a prime lens, they're like, you know, 1,500 plus bucks. And you can find them cheaper than that by a little bit, but we're talking about like a few $100s cheaper if you're checking all the different things and being really patient and checking eBay, checking Facebook, checking all the different sites. Then yeah, you can probably score a deal at some point. But no matter what deal you get, no matter how good that deal is, ultimately it's still going to be more expensive than a $200 to $400 Pentax lens. So you got to look at the system overall. You can't just say, oh, the Pentax 645D, it's cheaper to get a Fujifilm 50S. Well, yeah, maybe you can find the camera body cheaper, but you are not going to find Fujifilm lens in any kind of good condition for $400. Like they're going to be $1,000, $1,500, $1,800, depending on which lens that you're going for. I mean, a lot of these sell new for over $2,000. So when you look at the complete package of the overall system, the Pentax is dramatically cheaper, because I paid $1,050 for my Pentax. With the two lens that I bought for that Pentax, I was like just a few bucks over $1,600. If I were to buy those same lens or like equivalent lens on the Fujifilm system, I'd probably be paying about $3,000 in just the lens cost, not counting the actual Fujifilm GFX 50S body. So that's going to go for at least $1,000, if not closer to $1,500. So then the same kit that I paid $1,600 for is about $4,000 to $4,500 to replicate on Fujifilm side. So I don't know why people continue to comment that and say that the Fujifilm GFX is cheaper. It's not as a system, and it doesn't need to be. I mean, it's a great photography tool. Some people have that kind of money. Some people are willing to supplement with vintage lens or have, you know, different kinds of setups, and that's great. But, you know, don't claim it's a cheaper system. If you want some of the benefits that the 50S has, you could just buy a Pentax 645Z and then still have access to all these, you know, Pentax lens. And I have shot with these lens for a good while now and can confirm that they are incredible in terms of the image quality. I mean, just absolutely bonkers sharp images, and you know, corner to corner, it's impressive. So just because it's an older system, older lenses, you're buying them used, does not mean that the image quality is going to suck or that it's not going to be a good quality system. So that's my little rant. I'm sure people will continue to comment that, and what I just said will make no difference, and I'll have to repeat it again each time someone comments. But I thought I'd throw it out there because it is a frequently recurring thing, and I'm surprised that people don't factor in the cost of the lens. But it may just be ignorance that they've looked up the Pentax 645D before. They saw it was slightly more expensive, but they didn't actually look up the lens, and so they weren't aware that the lens cost is so much cheaper. I mean, that's like one of those kind of hidden gems, in my opinion, is the Pentax 645D medium format lenses, because there are systems, even vintage systems, where the lens just still costs so much money. And then you have the Pentax 645 system that the lens are like very reasonable, if not even like kind of surprisingly cheap. And you're like, how are they this cheap when surely this would be a sought after system, if not the 645D, at least the 645Z, because I think they resolved a lot of the processing speed issues. And that's honestly my biggest gripe with the 645D, is just that it processes so slowly. So, maybe a 645Z is the solution to that. But anyway, all right. We are 26 minutes into this thing. And you guys have heard me talk a lot and rant a lot. So I think it's probably time for me to open up this, this box and see what we got. And I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that it's something usable and good. But we'll see. I am going to need a blade. All right. I've got a blade. I'm going to need to put on my other microphone. Got a little lav mic here from back in the day. Used to use it with like green screen stuff that I thought was really funny on my photography YouTube channel. Actually, I just said the wrong thing. On my gaming YouTube channel, not my photography YouTube channel. That's the one we're on now. Okay, we're laved up, we're wired up. So when we jump over to our other setup, hopefully it will work flawlessly. Okay, so this is our box here, and I got 31 copies of this zine, so I can always reorder, I guess, more copies. But yeah, we got 31. I'm going to keep one for myself. Honestly, I think I'm probably going to send one to Ted at Art of Photography and see if he'll review it and give me his thoughts. I think as a book, there are definitely some things I could do to improve it, but I would also be interested about what his thoughts are on specifically the actual art itself, like the candy art that I've been doing. Because I think he gets deep, man. He thinks about a lot of stuff. That's a weird statement. He gets deep. He thinks about a lot of stuff. I don't know what I'm saying. But yeah, if you're unaware somehow, if you're watching photography YouTube and you're unaware, Ted Forbes, Art of Photography on YouTube, he does gear reviews, but he also will review people's photo books. He'll talk about art. I think if he isn't currently, he was at one point like a art, oh gosh, what do they call it? Like a, not an art collector or museum collector. I think he worked at a museum. Gosh, I forgot what the word is. I think it starts with a C though, but whatever. So anyway, we're going to open this bad boy up. I try not to cut my poor fingers off. Oop. You know, in Boy Scouts, they taught us never cut towards yourself, which is exactly not what I did just now. Oh boy. Here they are. Looks like there's one individual one, and then there's like a bunch that are wrapped as a group. Wow. So yeah, the book title is Sugar Junkie, and I have one of my images on the front cover here, and I think these are also, I think they're individually wrapped on the inside, which would be really cool if they are. I hope they are. But yeah, Sugar Junkie. I think we have like 30 images inside. I'm gonna grab this. There's one in here that's like a solo one, so I guess that's mine, like a proof of concept. Or actually, it's probably because I did 31 copies, and so there's stacks of, yeah, that's what it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So stacks of 10, and then a individual of 1. So I'm gonna open it up, and we're gonna look at it over on this other setup that I have here, so you guys can see it probably in a little bit better resolution than you would be seeing this here. So I'm gonna switch over and hope that it works perfectly, and I'll see you over there in a second. All right, just get this open here. Open surprisingly easily. Hopefully you guys are hearing me. All right, I've got it open. Sleeve is off. So we are actually on the Canon R7 now. We're using it as a prop camera or something. I don't know what you would call this. But this is Sugar Junkie by myself. It is a zine, so relatively thin, and you know, kind of has this blue theme. This was a photo that I shot that I do also include in the book, unobstructed, but I wanted to use it as the cover as well, and I wanted the same color that I used for the backdrop to also be used as sort of the background, or not background, but the backside and the spine for it. So there'd be some kind of consistency. So I think this came out looking pretty good. Yeah, all of this designed by me. So I'm not going to go through every single page, but I do want to show off a few things. So we have a little inside, and I wrote here, Sugar Junkie imagines candy as more than just a sweet treat. It's a craving for a world of vibrancy and fun. And then I have a photo that I did. This one was actually done on the Olympus E500, I want to say. So 8 megapixel camera for this particular image, but it just looks so good. I mean, it just shows like the megapixel count is not the most important factor here. So first page, I did include the first photo that started the entire series. So I was doing a test really just to learn more about my camera equipment and about you know, which cameras had better color science, and you know, comparison of resolutions, and like, you know, does an 8 megapixel image look dramatically worse than a 24 megapixel image, you know, whatever it was. And so I was shooting on the Olympus E300, which is an 8 megapixel camera from 2004, I want to say. And it was really just kind of like a one-off test. I was just shooting some candy, putting some different stuff together, started having fun, so started to do a little more intricate patterns and stuff. And then as I was reviewing the footage, I saw this image and I was like, ooh, wait a minute. this might have some legs. You know, this could maybe be something. And that's what kicked off this whole candy art series. This image on the other side is not the first, but one of the first that I shot with the Pentax 645D. And so this is a 40 megapixel image next to a 8 megapixel image, and they look like they're shot on the same camera. So, and then this was one I definitely wanted to take a look at. This was also shot, I believe, on either the E300 or the E500. So same sensor. It's a 8 megapixel Kodak sensor. And I'm really impressed with how this one specifically came out. This looks good. I was worried that, you know, I did the design myself, and I also like put it into PDF format and uploaded it to the website that I had for printing this. And I was worried that I maybe did something wrong and these were going to come out all pixelated and bad, but this looks good. The colors are accurate. They look right. It's not too pixelated. I mean, it's really not pixelated at all, which I would imagine would have not been the case because, you know, you're taking an image and shrinking it down a bit, so usually you don't lose too much when you do that. But man, that looks awesome. I've also got the back artwork, Colton Matocha, and my website, coltonmatocha.com. And I did this thing where I took the front cover and I kind of stretched it out and moved it onto two sides. So this version is actually slightly different from this other side here. And then I just put like a filter over it to kind of make it less sharp a resolution as, or less clear like the front cover is. So if you think this book is looking good, give me a little thumbs up there. Let me know. Let's see. I'm going to check out a few other images, but I don't want to let all of the images out of the bag. Oh man, this looks awesome. This one was a really challenging shot to do because I was trying to set up these chocolates like how I shoot a lot of the other candy artwork, which, you know, is kind of more pattern based. And I was just having a hard time. I mean, I worked on this image here on the left-hand side. I worked on this image for weeks. I would just shoot for a while, not get what I wanted, put my camera down, go to bed, come back the next day, shoot again, still not get, you know, quite what I wanted, shoot again. And it was like, it was so frustrating. I think I called my brother, my dad. I was just talking to them about it. And they made the suggestion like, oh, you should smash the candy, something like that. I hope I'm remembering that correctly. And so I thought, you know, maybe I'll try that. And so I did pursue shooting a smashed up version. It was therapeutic because it was like this shot that I have just not been able to get. I'm finally just smashing up all this candy, and it feels like, you know, kind of an FU to this candy that's been so challenging to photograph. And then I realized, well, this smashed up candy kind of looks cool, so I photographed it, and I really liked it. And so then I still had more chocolate left over, so I reshot the other side and finally, you know, got what I was looking for. And then the contrast, you know, of the two, from something that is maybe not perfect, but as close to perfect as I could get it, versus sort of the therapeutic aspect of destroying that same thing is, I don't know, it felt really good. And viewing it now, I'm really happy. And I will also say, for all of my concerns, kind of, I mean, I guess the light's not quite perfect to get too close here, but the resolution looks great here. Like the quality of the image looks really good. And I was a little worried that I would have messed this up because I'm not a graphic designer. I don't know a lot about PDFs. I don't know a lot about layouts and CMYK versus RGB and all those different things. And so I was so sure that the book would show up and it would just be, everything would be pixelated and everything would be low quality and the colors would be all off. So I was so sure that that would happen. And I can't tell you how relieved. I'm going to sleep well tonight knowing that this actually came out looking good, which is great. Let's see. I was curious about this one. Yeah, that one looks pretty good too. Kind of another page filler. But yeah, I like that. I wasn't sure if that would be too much on one page, but I think because it's so different, it looks good. And this is another good one to take a peek at. I'm giving them all away accidentally. I'm supposed to only tease this thing. Yeah, I think these look pretty good. These were shot on the Pentax 645D, so I had a little bit more resolution, but I did also crop in a bit on those. They look good. I go back to this one again. I just really like how this one came out. I think it looks nice and sharp. You know, you wouldn't be able to tell that that's an 8 megapixel image, I don't think. Hopefully it's in focus here. And I did a test, it's on my channel a while back, where I shot one 8 megapixel and then I AI upscaled it to, what was it? I think it was 32 megapixels. And when I printed it out, me and the technicians at the photo lab, we could not figure out which was which. And it was printed pretty large. It was like, what was it? It was like 20 by 30 on both of them. They were huge. One of them actually will be at my gallery. So yeah, again, contrast between 8 megapixel and 40 megapixel in that one. Kind of the first, and maybe not the last, but one of the very first photo and one of the later ones on the same page. And you really can't tell that one is, you know, like a fourth of the resolution of the other. So I see some comments that we have coming in. I'm just a little far away from the computer at the moment, so I will read those when I jump back over. And I saw, I think I saw a like in there too, so I appreciate that also. I'm kind of set up a little weird on this side. So yeah, I think I'll leave the rest of the book kind of unshown for now. I will be making an independent video about just my experience putting this book together, or I should say zine really, because that's what we have here is a photography zine. But I'll put together a video. There's so many better videos out there about putting together a photography zine, but maybe my personal experience could still be helpful to someone out there. So this was done, I will say the company that actually did the print, they were very communicative, and it was called Mixam, I think, Mixam. When I get back over to the computer, I'll type it in the chat for anyone who's interested. But they did a really great job. They were very communicative. They helped me out a lot. So I definitely felt supported by them. And just the quality of this, like for a quick zine, not a quick zine, I shouldn't say that. This is like a 2-year zine to make. So not a quick zine, but for a zine, the quality feels really nice. Like they did a good job with this cover. I did a matte cover with them, and I just appreciate how, like, it was a good job. I spent a lot of time trying to make sure that the color of the backdrop of the candy in this photo would match the color I was using on the spine and back, and it looks like it came out really well. But yeah, this is really nice to have in front of me, I will say. After 2 years of wanting to do a photo zine and essentially having to dedicate myself to one concept and just photograph week in, week out that one concept, and then, compile those images together and leave some on the cutting room floor and include some. And then, even the aspect that I wanted to have someone else do the graphic design and wasn't able to get someone to do it. Having done the graphic design myself, I feel like, there's a few things that maybe could have been done better and maybe someone with graphic design experience could have done. But I think I added in a nice few touches, like the special inside cover here that's got a little bit more of a filter to it than the more contrasty outside. And I'm never good with words, but I did put just a very few amount of words in here to kind of talk about the book and why I did it, what my thoughts were. And I just love this image. I should actually I should do a framed version of this, because I have framed this image and it has a mat and it looks awesome. It will be in the gallery when that opens in February, or actually it opens in January, but the reception's in February. But having this outside layer also be the image just adds another level to it. I think that could be fun to do a framed version, like how I've done in the other framed images. That would be a lot of fun. I don't want to give too much away. I did repeat that for a couple other images, except in this version, I did a totally different image on top of a fan favorite image. This is actually one of the first. So if this image, circle back over here, if this was the image that kicked off the series in my little test, and then I said, ooh, I like this so much, I'm going to do a whole series on candy. If this was the image that kicked it off by accident, then this is the image that kicked it off on purpose. And that doesn't make a lot of sense, but this was an image that I probably one of the first where I was like actually setting out to photograph candy and do so in an artistic capacity. But yeah, that's the photo book. And I think I'm really proud of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back over to the computer there, and we'll continue the discussion. All right. So we're back in the driver's seat. Yeah, I feel really good about that. I was admittedly, as I mentioned before at the start of the stream, a little bit worried that this was going to show up and it was going to be just like total garbage. And I'm very glad that it is not. Wow, this came out incredible. Thank you. Love that. Got to get one. This came out excellent. Love how the logo and name looks. The gummy bears is my favorite. So good. Yeah, I appreciate that. Big thanks actually to Andrew for helping me frame a lot of stuff and also review the PDF that I sent out. Him and my girlfriend both reviewed it and kind of gave me some thoughts. And that first version, had I gotten that printed, it still would have looked nice, but there were a few like little details, and it's the little details that make things look right. And so yeah, had it not been for those two kind of giving me some feedback and everything, I think it wouldn't have been as special a book or zine, I should say, as it is. So yeah, it's exciting to see it here in person. And for better or for worse, it's one of those things where I'll always have that, I feel like in my 20s, I spent a lot of time learning about photography and doing other things and whatnot, but I didn't really pursue a lot of goals or a lot of challenges. So to have something that's like you put in the work, you had a vision and you created it, and now here it is. It feels really good. It feels special. Like I can pull this book or this zine out when I'm 70 and be like, probably I'll in some ways I'll think critically, like, man, I should have done more of these. I should have worked harder. I should have done this, that, but also outside of all of those natural human sort of thoughts will be kind of the thought of like, man, this is cool. Like I made this and I did that and it exists. So this will be available for anyone who wants a copy. No pressure. But if you do, you can, I think my email is on the channel, so you could email me, or my Instagram is on the channel and you can just shoot me a DM and we can square it out. But this will also be available at the gallery showing. February 8th, I think, is when the actual reception is. The gallery opens, I want to say it's January 25th is when the gallery opens. It might be even earlier than that, though. But it is sometime late January you can go see. But then at the reception is specifically where this will be available. And then maybe, I guess, I have to do an artist talk. So you guys can maybe tell me what sorts of things I should talk about in my artist talk. Probably will be related to the book itself, or at least the artwork itself. Some of the same images that are in this book are also going to be on display at the gallery. So, yeah, if anyone is in the Austin area during that time period, it'll be a nice quick stop. Nothing that you spend, your whole weekend on, but yeah. So excited to see your work in the gallery. You worked so hard for this. The zine is a perfect example of the work that you've put in. Yeah, I'm feeling good about it, and that's a nice relief because I was worried that it was going to come out looking bad, and it didn't. And that was like, okay, good, we got a good one. I don't know if a company that you're having print your zine would tell you if it looked bad, or if they'd just be like, well, they paid for it, whatever. But yeah, that's the zine, Sugar Junkie. And I forget exactly how many images I included in here, but I think it's around 30 images from the series. And some of these are not in the gallery. So some of them have yet to be framed or shown publicly outside of this specific zine. And so that kind of makes it special too. Like some of these, they're great. But yeah, it's like the gallery, there's sort of like a theme to what I was doing and a limited number of images that I was putting in there. So not everything that is in the gallery was, what am I saying? I'm like losing my mind. Suffice to say, there's images in the zine that are not in the gallery. And I think maybe vice versa. There may be one image in the gallery that's not in the zine. So it gives you a reason to go see either one. But yeah, that's pretty much the main part of the stream. I just wanted to unbox the zine and see how it came out, see if it was any good, and how I felt about it. And I'll definitely say I feel good. The quality is there. All the images look sharp and they look good quality. So my fear that it would be pixelated was not an issue. And if you're looking to do a zine of your own, like I said earlier, I'll make a little video. I won't go into like the nitty gritty probably. Well, who knows? Maybe I will. But I just used Canva like ultimately to create the zine, and then I used Mixam, I think it was. I think that's how you pronounce it, to be the printer for the zine. And that was pretty much it. Like I did go the route of trying to get a graphic designer. I mean, I still think if a graphic designer had done it, it probably would look even just a little bit better. but the graphic designers that I found were either like way too expensive for what I was producing, and like even they were like, yeah, like this isn't really a project that you would want to hire me for, or they just didn't really respond. And I was like, dang, I'm like literally hitting you up to like get your services, but you know, what can you do? But having done it myself, completely DIY, outside of actually like printing the images and cutting the book, and I left the printer for that. That definitely would have been a step too far for my skill set. But having done the design portion myself, I'm relieved that it came out well. But I'm also satisfied that, like, hey, I stepped outside of a zone of expertise into a zone that I have no expertise in, and was at least successful enough for myself. So the one thing Canva maybe wasn't good for is I did want to do a spread that would come across multiple pages, and not do the thing where it like gets sucked in. Like, I've got to show you guys, if you haven't seen this, if you're a fan of scary movies, there's a scary movie called Hereditary. And it's also quite beautiful from a photography standpoint. So when that movie came out, it was a pretty big hit, especially if you're into scary stuff. And so they did a photo book of stills from the movie. And when I found out about that, I was like, oh man, I got to get a copy. Like, I bet that looks amazing. And I still wish I could get a copy. But the book has a lot of photos that go across both sides of the page. So it's like a full, photo across the whole page. And for some reason, I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was a botched job, or if somebody did the book who doesn't know how to do a book, but there's a way to do those images so that they will lay flat and you'll see the whole image uninterrupted, but also undistorted. And they didn't do that for this book, or they messed up or something, because the images, they definitely do pull into the spine. And so when you lay it flat, the image is distorted. And there's a few like very funny ones. I'm trying to look it up. Hereditary photo book issue, maybe? Will that give me what I'm looking for? The internet's so hard to do searches these days. Oh gosh. Let's see. I saw it on Twitter, or X originally. This was back in the day though. Maybe I need to get on to Google proper instead of this. I use like a random search engine, but we'll go Hereditary book issue is not like the right word. Oh man. It's like right when you need something, you can never pull it up and find it. I wonder if I had them saved on my computer at any point. They were so funny, because it's like a picture of someone's face, but then like the middle of their face is like sucked into the book, so you can't even see it. Yeah, dang it. It would have been so great if I could find it. And I do wonder if it was just some copies of it, because surely, surely they would have fixed that after it came out, especially when people are tweeting about it. And it's like, oops, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have done full pages, and then also not like designed those pages so that they would print and sit in the book correctly. Oh, here we go. Here we go. I found it. Oh, thank God. I'm only probably going to be able to provide this one example because I don't want to spend a million years looking for examples, but we'll jump over here and move that out of the way. And so, yeah, that's not what it looks like in the movie, right? Like, it's clearly getting like sucked into the middle, and it's supposed to like be pulled out slightly more. That one's a that one's a really good example. Like, look how hard this guy is pressing these pages down with these fingers. He's got the whites in the tips, the whites on the knuckles, and then like his face. Oh my God. This shot, it becomes a different movie at this point. Like, it's not even the same movie anymore because this looks so ridiculous. But yeah, like when you do the book, you're supposed to do, and I don't know, I'm not a printer, but it's like a lay flat design or something to where the printer knows to pull these images out a little further so that when you lay it flat, it looks correct. It looks like there's no problem at all. Whereas that's definitely not the case here. I love the message here too. It says, therapist, the stills from the A24 Hereditary book aren't real. They can't hurt you. Yeah, these are just so funny. Imagine spending, because this book was probably, I don't know, 50 to $100. You spend 50 to $100. Most of the book is full spread like this. You know, there's very few, like, I feel like pages where it's just a photo on one side, photo on the other. So like most of the book, you have these horribly distorted images of what is otherwise like a brilliant and beautiful film. Like, I would love to revisit that film in picture form, but not this way. And there's other shots where like the characters aren't as poorly, situated here. But then like the walls are like messed up, or like some of the room isn't visible because it's getting like pulled into the center. So kind of crazy that this is the original post I saw on X almost 5 years ago, over 4 years ago. And it only got 5 reposts, 63 likes. And yet I can still pull it up to this day and find it 4+ years later. Feels like this person, they should have gotten more hits on this. I wonder how much that Hereditary book goes for now. It's been out for almost 5 years. There's also a screenplay book, and I think in that one it's just like the actual screenplay. Or is it? Maybe this is the same book. $60? Maybe. No, yeah, this one. Or wait, no, this is the book. See, actually, I don't know, dude. I think maybe that's just how they designed it. Because if you look at this shot right down the middle, you are missing a little sliver of this room. Now, luckily, there's nothing really super important that's being pulled out, because this is the important part, that's the important part. But yeah, you are missing a little something. I didn't realize it was like also the screenplay. They definitely don't show. I love on the Hereditary page, they do not show you the really messed up images. And then what, they give you a quantity? I'd like to order 9 copies of this. If you needed to order a 10th copy, you're just out of luck. 12 copies? Nah, we can't do that. We can do, most I can do is 9 copies, okay, man? I don't got that many copies left. That's hilarious. And they have other books. That is such a shame that to this day, because surely they've reprinted this book, right? Like, or are they still just trying to get through all of the original order that they did? They didn't do like a second order where they're like, okay, I guess not, because you see book number 4 up here. So maybe it was like a limited batch. And so then each book has a number on it to indicate which one in the batch it is. If it were me, man, I'd have gone back and been like, okay, we got to fix this. Especially if it looks like, oh, I lost it. But yeah, if it looks like the other part. Anywho, it's funny. Awesome. Well, that's pretty much the stream. We did a 3-hour stream on Monday, and this was a much shorter stream, really just to talk about the new zine, Sugar Junkie. Very excited, and I appreciate you guys jumping in and taking a look. If you like it, if you think it's good, give me a like. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. That definitely helps out. It's all photography related content. So if you're into photography or filmmaking or candy, then might be worth checking out. A lot of content on the channel, so check that out. Andrew says the Midsummer book is also like that. Such a shame, because the Midsummer is also a really good looking movie, and maybe even a better looking movie than even Hereditary is. So for them to both be messed up, it's like, how did they do that? They didn't consult with anyone about how to properly put together a photo book. Like, they just sort of did it and they messed it up and then just kept ordering more copies of the messed up version. Because anyway, I have seen photography books where they do a lay flat or whatever it is, and it doesn't look bad, and you can see the images perfectly. In fact, I have one, which, hold on, let me grab it. We're back. Hopefully you enjoyed some Dracula in the background. That's the movie, the scary movie of the night. But this book, which is a book on North Korea, and I have a photo book review of this on my channel. It's one of the an older video on my channel now, so I think I probably have like a huge beard in that video and like shorter hair. So it might be a bit jarring, but definitely worth a watch if you're interested. But yeah, North Korea in color, kind of, I mean, probably one of, if not my favorite photo book that I've ever gotten. But there is kind of like a concept of like, in order to go there and shoot all the images, you kind of have to basically pay the North Korean government. And so in a way, by creating this book, you've helped fund a government that's going to brutalize its own people. So sometimes I feel bad when I think about it. But at the same time, it is a really great book. But what I was calling out, I got to pull up my screen here so I can see. Hello, welcome to the stream. Yeah, you missed the book reveal, but the great thing about the internet is it exists forever now. And so you can just rewind and see the book. But just so you can see the front cover of it, this is the book, Sugar Junkie, or the zine, really. It's more of a zine. But yeah, in this North Korea book, there are a number of full page spreads and this book will lay flat. And when you really look at the image all the way down the middle, you see every piece. You're not missing a single bit of image in this lay flat. It's not like the Hereditary or apparently Midsummer book where it's like super sucked in and you're like missing a lot of this TV and this middle chair. Like you get the whole middle chair in this shot. And so it's like the technology exists to be able to do a full spread and not lose any part of the image. Like it's possible. And for some reason, someone at Hereditary, someone at A24 is just pumping out shirts. Now I'm reading the comments. Nice shirt. They're pumping out photo books with like basically no concept, I guess, or guidance for how to do it. But yeah, like this, and this is just a really great book. This guy knows how to put a book together. But yeah, you don't lose anything in the middle. So anyway, I could go through and look every once in a while, just like look through this book. It is also shocking because it's like, this is stuff in North Korea. Like you would not picture this kind of building in North Korea. You would kind of picture it as just like a big slum, you know, but they do have in their capital city a lot of very like interesting buildings, and it's a very colorful city. So oddly enough, like I would be very attracted to the color of the city. And I mean, look at this. This is a North Korean subway station. Like this is just a hallway as you're going down into the subway. Why does a North Korean subway look like a Wes Anderson movie? Like this literally looks like a still from a Wes Anderson film, but it's actually North Korea. Now, granted, this is the capital city. Most of the rest of the country is like utter chaos, but yeah. So a lot of very interesting stuff in this book. I do, as I mentioned, have a review of this book from way back when I had a beard on the channel, or at least I think I still had a beard when I did this book review. Actually, I'm going to bring back book reviews to the channel. I think I did 2 or 3 and nobody was really interested in them. So I kind of moved on, but I realized the other day that I'm interested in them. So I'm just going to bring them back. And if nobody watches it, that's fine. I'll still enjoy reviewing them regardless. But this was the first one I did. If you are interested in this book and you don't mind feeling guilty about sort of in some moral way, maybe funding North Korea, which I do explain my thoughts on that in the photo book review. But it's Dave Kuliza, I think is his name. He's, I think he's from New Zealand, or it might have been Australia. It's one of those two. So some of you are in the neighborhood of this individual. And the book's called DPRK North Korea in Color. I think he's done like a second printing of this, so I think it is possible to buy this. He does have some other photo books. He has one that he did in Japan, and it's stellar. It's good. Definitely worth a grab too. But this one's special because it's, you know, very colorful, and it's about a country that you don't really get to see, and then you see in such a different way when you look at this particular book. But since we had a few people jump back in, I'll pivot. I guess we have a few questions here. Are you happy with it? And I believe in reference to my own book. Yes, this is Sugar Junkie. I keep saying book, really a zine. It's too thin to be a book. But yeah, like Sugar Junkie, and I do like it. I'm very satisfied. Having no knowledge of how to do a photo book, I think I did a pretty decent one. And I did go through a few of the images and some of the history of some of the photos. So you guys can go back and rewatch that part if you want to check it out and see some of the insides. But I'm happy, and I'm very grateful that the images are not terribly pixelated and, just like, I was so worried that they would show up, because I did it in Canva, is my little secret. I used Canva to make this book. And so I was worried that it was going to look bad, but it didn't. Nice shirt. Love that book. Sorry if I missed it. What year was the DPRK published? Oh, that's a good question. I want to say it would have been post-pandemic, I believe. I don't think he put in here when it was posted. Maybe he did. Maybe it's in the very back. That's usually where they put stuff. But Dave, I'll put it up here on the screen. Dave Kuliza, I guess. It's going to be too blurry. DaveKuliza.com if you want to see if he still has copies of this. Now, it does say that this series, because he had a gallery showing of this series, and he said that was in November 28th through December 8th of 2019. And I think this book existed at that point as well. So I want to say this was right before the pandemic hit that he put this book out. So, yeah. Classic 20th century authoritarian state architecture. Yeah, there is a lot. There's like a mix of like very clearly like Soviet inspired buildings. There's a ton of Soviet inspired buildings in this book. And then there's also some buildings that are clearly much newer and are expanding outside of that Soviet brutalist kind of architecture. And then to see those in the same shot or in the same book even is really interesting, to have like a building that looks like the planet Saturn next to like a Soviet bloc, housing complex. So yeah, very interesting. There's a book that I see advertised to me on Instagram a lot that is, it's like a Soviet style book or brutalist style book, Eastern Bloc European countries. And I think it's called Taschen, or maybe Taschen is the publisher. And I always want to buy it. It's like $50, but I can never tell if it's a scam or not, because I feel like so many ads that are on Facebook or Instagram are like scams. It'll be like, oh, look at these cool pair of shoes. And you're like, yeah, those are cool. And you click on the ad, and it's like the buy website has a countdown timer. And you're like, that's a dead giveaway that this is a scam. Why is there a countdown timer pressuring me to buy this quickly, So not to say that that's on the photo book website, although I feel like maybe it was, and that's why I never bought it. But I'm sure it will pop up now that I'm talking about it. I'm sure it's going to show up in my recommendations. It is hard to find photography book, even older ones. Are you talking about this specific DPRK one? Because I do know it is possible that it was a limited release. At one point, he definitely did sell out. Tell you what, I'll pull up his website. We'll find out right now. Dave Kuliza. He also did some podcasts where he talked about his experience in actually going to North Korea. So let's jump over to his website real quick. What also could be rewarding a book review is short discussions, live streams based on participants all reading, say, a chapter a fortnight of the same book. Yeah, that would be sick. We were actually talking about that in the last stream, I think it was, where we were talking about sharing photographs. I forgot. He's going to remind me, because you were in the stream, but we were talking about how you shared photographs. You had a Discord group, and what was I saying? That I forgot what I did. Like, I was sharing an experience that I had in exchanging a photo, but it was like a photo club, or Gosh, I've totally forgotten, and it's my own memory. I can't even remember something that I personally experienced. But yeah, that would be really fun. I think that could be a really cool idea. So I appreciate that. Doing either, and it could even be a rotating thing where it's like you're doing a movie at some point, you're doing a book at some point. I would love to do photo books because I'll look at a photo book and I'll be honest, guys, I will come up with very, not intense, but very specific opinions. Sometimes I'll hate a photo book. Maybe not hate is a strong word, but I'll look at a photo book and be like, I don't like that image. And then I'm like, well, why don't I like that image? Because maybe I could be wrong, but also maybe learning why I don't like that image will inform how I create images. And then similarly, photo images that I like. Well, what is it that I like about them? But these are just conversations I have in my head, and having that with other people who will bring up points I possibly wouldn't conceive of would be really interesting as well. So that would be really cool. Publication date will be a couple of pages in from the start. Let's see. Sorry, I'm catching up on... he does have a little word at the front. And I think what also might be an issue is I didn't put a publication date on mine. I think it's just because he like self-published it also. Yeah, he just gets right into the photos. Anyway. Photo books in secondhand stores. Yeah, like, and I've actually picked up a few photo books in secondhand stores. And to be honest, most of them I've not liked. And it's kind of weird because I had a chance to look at them before I bought them. One of them's on Russia. And I will say the book I don't love because I feel like it's a little bit more documentary, but it is basically a photo book. There's very few words in the book. It's pretty much photos, but the photos are maybe in more of a documentary kind of standpoint. And so often they're not necessarily in good light, or they're just like shots that I'm like, well, it's not really that iconic, because documentary shots can be like eye-popping, eye-watering, like, my God, this is so good. And these are all just kind of like, eh. But then there are these like shots randomly in the book where you're just like, boom, that's it. That's what I'm looking for. And you freaking nailed it. Why didn't you do more like this? That's the shot, man. Now I'm going to go grab that book to show you guys what I'm talking about. Taschen is an iconic publisher of architecture and art books of the highest quality. I have lots. Okay, so maybe I feel more comfortable now potentially grabbing one of their books then. And probably what I'll do is I'll just look for the actual website and not go the route of a ad, because the ad could be a scam about a product that's real. So I'll just go directly to their website and just buy the book from their website and not worry about like it just popping up on my feed. But I'm sure now that we're talking about it, we're all going to have a lot of photo book ads on our social medias. People tend to hold on to them. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the photo exchanges, man, what were we talking about? I feel like I had a great photo exchange I used to do that could be really great for maybe even this community to have and do. So, let's see. Let me grab that book. It's a honkin' book as well. I mean, the thing is huge. By the way, we talked about older movies, maybe on the last stream or the stream before that. We talked about like many people liked more classic films. I did watch the 4K restoration of Nosferatu. which I think prepared me more for. I will watch the remake just because I'm a huge horror film fan, and I will watch every horror film that comes out. I'm actually going to a drive-in theater tomorrow to watch Smile 2. Even though Smile 1 was just fine, I'll watch Smile 2 even if that isn't as good. But I mentioned that because we have Dracula playing. Now, to be fair, this is not the original Dracula or even probably the first few Draculas. This is the Keanu Reeves version of Dracula with Anthony Hopkins and I think Winona Ryder's in it. So it's kind of more of like, I think it's the 90s Dracula, but the 90s were like 30 years ago now. So it is now a classic. But anyway, so here's the book, which this thing is ridiculous. It's huge. First off, it's heavy. And I don't know if you guys can kind of visualize this, but this book is so big, it doesn't fit on any book shelf that I own. So it's a real pain to own this just from that standpoint. But there are some photos in here which are really good. Even like this first photo. I mean, I don't even know if I can hold this thing up. Like this is interesting. This is interesting. The light is really cool. You have this person just living their life. This is what I mean by documentary style. Like there's a lot of people in these books where I will say Dave, the DPRK one, there are people in it, but there's just not like a ton. He's definitely more of an architecture photographer. This person is less so, but you have some like, I think Navy recruits going for like a morning run. So also like a pretty cool photo. But then, I don't know, there's just a lot of, golly, this thing is so big. Yeah, coffee table book for sure. Like, and you gotta have a big coffee table. But then there's shots like this that I'm just not a huge fan of. I will say, oddly enough, it actually looks better like looking at it through the computer monitor. Like looking at it in person, it's like, this looks like kind of garbage. When I look at it through the computer monitor, it actually looks better. I think because the colors look a little different. But let's see. So anyway, there's just like a lot of stuff of like people living their lives and it is interesting from the standpoint of like capturing a time period, but there's just a lot of shots in here that are not that great. Here's two shots that are great. Like this lady power washing. I got to get my head in front of the book so I can actually like talk into the mic and have the book in shot. But anyway, this lady power washing and you got the two guards there standing all strict and everything. Like that looks sick, dude. That looks awesome. And like this lady, you got Lennon, John Lennon, a statue of Lennon, and this lady's like watering some flowers in front of him, and like that looks really cool. I do wish this book were smaller in physical size. So there is some cool stuff in here. But there's also just like a lot of I don't know, kind of stuff like this where it is interesting, but I don't know if it's like eye popping. Like some people on a train, but it's also kind of like, well, this just looks like anyone on a train from just like the 70s, you know. It doesn't stand out to me like this shot too. Now I think this one may be, I don't know, everyone has a shaved head, and so that could be a thing. I don't know. There is a lot of text of like explaining what some of the stuff is. So it's a lot of people, but there are some really cool shots where you really show the Soviet propaganda type stuff. And that's the stuff I like the most. And what I was really looking for in this book is like this is a huge cultural thing. You've got these girls doing like ballet or a recital or something. This lady's playing a piano for them. And then you have this very omnipotent, or maybe not omnipotent, but like this this image of Lennon, again, John Lennon, behind. It's like, I don't know. It's very North Korea-y, right? And then that makes you start thinking about, your own country that you live in. And especially here in the United States, like, we have a lot of similar patriotism stuff, but usually you don't have like a recital happening and then you have like George W. Bush looking over the audience and the performers. Like, it'd be a little weird. One cool thing about this book, or many cool things, but they also do oftentimes show you, a map of Russia and then little dots indicating where the photo was taken within the country. And that's really cool. But I'll show you guys really the main shot that I was looking at that was like, this is the kind of shot I'm looking for. Which, now that I'm revisiting this with a more critical eye, I am finding that maybe I was a bit harsh on it the first 2 times that I looked through it. And maybe what I wanted to get was a different book. And so I'm too harshly judging this book for just having maybe bought the wrong book. But here's one. This general, well, I assume a general, but some military man on a phone, Lenin above him, and it has that classic Soviet, but also just kind of 70s, like wood framed walls, and you got the wood desk. He's on a phone, but he's got the red phone next to him. And it's just like, it looks very much like Russia, like what you would, like, this looks like a shot out of the TV show Chernobyl. And this is also a really good shot too. I mean, look at these two, what are these guys, twins? They look like the same man. And yet they're not, for sure. But then you got all these ladies with their red hats around them. Like, that's a good shot. That's a good shot right there. I love this lady at the top. She's just like staring at the camera. It's like a little creepy. Classic nuclear reactor. Whoever did this photo book had unprecedented access to places in Russia. I don't know if it could be more than one photographer, and maybe that also is why the vibes of the book feel a little different picture to picture, is maybe it's not just one photographer, so you're working with multiple voices and multiple styles. This is also a really interesting one. Like, that's really not what you want when you're trying to fix a projector. You don't want a bunch of kids and random people messing around, touching the film. This looks like a nightmare, to be honest, but it's also like very captivating type of shot. So I don't know. I'm actually kind of coming around to this book. I love how I started this like, oh, this book sucks. And then now I'm kind of like, you know what? I kind of like this book. Let's see. I think the main image I was looking for, though, is somewhere deeper inside. Oh, there's an inappropriate photo in this book. That's bad. This book has also got a lot of pages to it, so it may take me a hot minute to get there. I was going to go around my town and just photo it as if I was making a tour book. Honestly, you should, though, Like, I was doing that here in Austin. I had, it's still some of the images, not all of them, but some of them are up on my website for Austin, Texas. And I was just going around. My big thing was, like, I loved to get a shot of a place and purposely tried to exclude all of the people who might be coming in and out or sitting nearby, walking around. It was like, how can I photograph this to where it seems like no one is here at all, and just capture the space only? It's like the removal of people from the photograph. And so I was just going around Austin, like photographing probably lesser known Austin based areas, but like popular for locals, but not necessarily places that, like, you know, if you were to type in like Austin landmarks, Quality Seafood is not an Austin landmark, but it is an Austin landmark for locals, if that makes sense. It's like a restaurant a lot of people know about. So I did do that. I didn't stick with it as long as I might have wanted, but that's one of those things where you can always pick it back up. The benefit of Austin, I don't know if your location is similar, but the city's growing so fast that you kind of are also documenting places that in a few months could be knocked down and bulldozed, at which point you now have kind of like captured a piece of history, and that place is able to live on even though it's no longer there or it's been converted into something else. How'd this person get up with the spaceman? He's freaking in the cockpit with these guys. What the heck? This has got to be more than one photographer. That, or this man just had the most unprecedented access to Russia. I'm sure it says if it's more than one photographer, but that would be insane. Well, one thing it does say is that the pictures in this series... Oh, yeah, it's 2 photographers. Okay, so 2 photographers have had a pretty unprecedented amount of access to Russia. They're in the freaking cockpit with the cosmonauts. What the heck? 2 photographers shot over 127,000 photos between May 15th, or no, shot on May 15th, 1987. What? Are they saying they shot 127,000 photos in one day? They must have been holding down that shutter button, just spraying, praying, but they were not needing to pray because they were getting a lot of good shots here. No photo, it does say, this is a caveat here, no photo is 24 hours older or younger than any other. So, holy crap. What? I think they're saying that every photo in this book all happened within the same 24 hours and were only shot by 2 guys with a Nikon F3 and a Nikon FM2 and Kodachrome film, guys. These are all film shots. That's insane. Wait a minute. That makes this book a lot more interesting to me. You're telling me there's no way, dude. There's no way. Look, they're in a freaking medical... Dang it. In a medical... This book's so hard to hold. They're in a medical place in one shot. The next shot, they're shooting 2, guys in a, whatever conference room. Then they're in the freaking cockpit with the cosmonauts. That is one tight 24 hours. Oh, then they're underwater. That probably was in the same place, though. They were probably like, the cosmonauts, and then they also have like a ocean rig for when the thing falls under the ocean. Then they had to go take a nap and shoot these people at a sauna. There's no way, dude. I don't know. Do people lie? Could these all just be lies? Wow. But yeah, I went around Austin, Texas shooting. A lot of places that I photographed don't exist anymore, so it's kind of like an archive of places that were once there, and that is really cool. And that's probably a series I'll pick up from time to time because it's fun to shoot places and go the opposite way and purposely remove all the people from the shot. That's something I also often do with my carnival long exposures. I don't really want anyone in the shot. I want it to be only the carnival ride in an exposure where you're seeing these interesting patterns. And so sometimes I'll go on, a Monday when no one will be there, but that has its sort of double-edged sword because it's a Monday, so no one's there. So you're getting beautifully clean shots of just the carnival ride. But because no one is there, you're also waiting 45 minutes for someone to ride the dang thing. And so I'll go like set up the camera, find the right spot, get it, focused in, do a couple test shots, make sure, well, no test shots if I'm shooting film, but if I'm shooting digital, I will allow myself the luxury of a test shot or two. And usually you have at least one test shot where you need to make sure everything works while the ride is going. And so that means that is just the test thing. So you got to wait for another group of people to go ride it. And the rides I'm photographing are the ones that at a carnival tend to be the more scary ones. And so you have very few people at the carnival on a Monday, and then only a small portion of the population that is there on a Monday is also willing to ride one of these more scary rides, which I think also cost a little bit more too in terms of how many tickets you got to pay to ride it. And so, yeah, you'll easily be set up, ready to go, and wait 45 minutes for someone to ride a ride, and then you photograph it. And it only makes me madder if someone gets on the ride. I've been waiting 45 minutes for them to get on this ride, and then someone else comes and stands in the shot, watches the ride. Now, that could be cool, but because it's a long exposure, it's like you won't get really the look of them like watching in awe or anything. You'll just get this like kind of blurry thing, and it just doesn't look good. So it always makes me mad when someone gets in there. But on the flip side, sometimes I'll go on like a Thursday or Friday when it's quite a bit more crowded, and then get shots of the carnival ride with lots of people in the shot. But that is a rarity because that's a lot harder to do. There's a lot of people around. How did they... Guys, they're saying they shot all of these images. 2 photographers in one day. They shot this diverse, and that's just one page. And this looks like in a variety of locations and places. How? I don't know if I believe that. I think this book might be old enough where it's like from back in a time where they could straight up just lie in the book and nobody would catch them. I mean, companies still lie to this day, but I feel like lying might have been even a little easier back then because there's a lot less technology available to catch. I don't know, man. Wait, nah, dude. No way. Okay, I've clearly misinterpreted this to some extent because, look, these people are swimming in this shot, but then over in this shot, it's snowing. Or at least raining, but it looks like snow because of the accumulation here on the edge. So how is it snowing and people are swimming? Oh, and they have more dots. Okay, there were more photographers because now they have a green and a yellow dot. But why didn't they mention that at the start of the book? Anyway, it may still be that these shots were all done on one day, but more than 2 photographers. And if that's the case, then this book is true when it says a day in the life of the Soviet Union. It literally is one day, and all of this stuff happened on this one day, which is kind of cool. Ooh, guys, look. We got a bad boy. He's got that cigarette. That's the Russian James Dean, you guys, right there. I was going to go, or Colton's Austin, Texas book. You have such an old Americana around you. Yeah, for sure. Austin's an interesting place because there are a lot of old infrastructure. that's really fun to photograph, and it does have that Americana theme to it. But equally, I guess Austin's one of the fastest growing cities in the United States, and so there is so many great buildings that have been knocked down for very generic condos and sky rises to be built. And that could be kind of cool, the contrast between something old and Americana and something very like new and modern. But that is both a benefit and a crisis. I wonder if James Dean's still alive here, because he looks pretty young in this photo. It looks like he might even still have a little acne, so he might be a young kid smoking a cigarette, playing pool. And this was in 1987. It's feasible that he might still be alive. I think about that too much when I'm looking at like watching a movie. I was watching an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation today, and they had like puppies in an episode, and I was like, damn, those puppies are dead. They've been long dead. And they're only puppies now, or as I'm watching it. And then I'm thinking, I shouldn't be thinking like that. I should just be enjoying this. That was a weird shot. I'm not going to show that on the feed because I think that might not be appropriate. But gosh, I pulled out this whole book and I just can't find that one image that I was saying was so good. I think the concept of this book has grown on me, though. The fact that this is all photos from one single day in Russia, shot across, I guess, what sounds like maybe 4 or more photographers, but that all of these images are from the same day is kind of cool. There's a lot of images, a lot of different locations within Russia. Here's a rock concert happening. And this, honestly, even though this is Russia, this looks like it could be American youth at a concert. I don't know. We may never be able to find that photo. Anyway, it would be cool to put together a concept of doing a photo book as a group, or even watching a more photography focused movie and then having sort of a discussion on it. And you guys know I can chatterbox chat like crazy, so I'd be very able to. Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't find that specific photo I was thinking of, but that's a day in the life of the Soviet Union. Let's see. It's not a photography book per se. It's a carefully constructed tool. Every image has been carefully selected in order to shape perception. So that's the lens to engage with it through. I think you're talking about the Soviet Union book. And yeah, I think probably I would have to go back and look at this book and like really read the setup of it, because I think that's a big part of making or breaking for that book. Long exposures, most people would be blurs. Yeah, they are, but they're still there enough, because the long exposure that I do is usually 1 to 2 seconds on those carnival rides. Every once in a while I'll go a little longer, like maybe 4 seconds or 6 seconds. Depends on the ride. But yeah, it's usually like about 2 seconds. And so if they're being pretty still for that 2 seconds, they will be blurry, but they will show up as a very clear, like that's a human being standing there. And when it's just 1 or 2 human beings, and the focus is really intended to be the ride and not, like a human moment. Yeah. Anyway, that's my personal vein when I go shoot those long exposures. I think they had a team of photographers. Yeah, it looks like they did. In the beginning, it was showing just 2, but that might have been for a misunderstanding on my part. It looks like they definitely had a team of photographers. I think it was like an organization, like a journal that did it. So that makes a lot more sense. And I think I like that book a little more because I now know that. You can easily swim and snow ski right now where I am, only an hour apart. That blows my mind. That's wild. I don't think there's any place like that in Austin where you can have that occur. I could imagine maybe in Colorado or something, if you were to say, like, if you go up the mountain, you ski. If you go to the bottom of the mountain, it's warm enough to swim. But it's a lot more flat here, I feel like. James Dean died decades earlier. He did. James Dean died in like the 60s, I think. Or maybe even, no, I think it was the 60s. Or maybe 50s. But he died and apparently was reincarnated as a Soviet boy who had all the same vibes and hopefully lived a longer life. There is a website called Showroy. They sell old photos. The best thing is you can view the images in a high res. Most images are from early 1900s, 1970s. I go there just to look. That is pretty cool. That's one thing I like to do when I go to like antique stores. There's a town, I mean, we have some antique stores in Austin, but there's a town called Georgetown, like an hour or less from where I am. And they have a ton of antique stuff. And they'll always have each one of the stores. They have like 10 different stores up there, maybe more. And they'll all have at least one spot where they just have a big bowl or a big box just full of old photos. And they are predominantly family portraits, which are interesting. But I always love it when they have some photos that are not family portraits, but that are really, really old. They're usually like shots on like a street or in like nature, or a lot of picnics for some reason. I guess picnics were a bigger thing, but yeah, I always like taking a peek at that. And I always feel a little weird too. It's like, these are people who are gone, and like cool that they have this photo captured, but just so strange to me. Always have to move this back out of the way. So circling back, I said I was going to pull this up and then I never did, but Dave Kuliza, I think is how you say his name. And this is DPRK. He also just came out with Retrofuturism, which was shot in Japan. I gotta say, obviously the North Korea one is a lot more colorful, but the Japanese one is equally as interesting. And he does have color, and this is such a great example. There's a lot of this sort of like monochrome, not even monochrome, but just like grayscale buildings, but that have interesting architecture. And then just like a random pop of color, usually in like a car or a fire hydrant or a sign in the window or something. And so there is still that pop that you get with the color, but this one is also a really good book. I bought from him as well. He's very into architecture, but he will also photograph some people, and he does a really good job of photographing people, but he works as an architecture person. So yeah, let's see. Shop DPRK North Korea. I was just curious if you could still buy this book. I know you can buy individual prints. Like, this is so cool to me. This hammer, sickle, and torch. Like, obviously, this is not a good country. Mainly, it's the leadership and the government. But, like, God, what an iconic, like, monument to have. It just looks eye-watering. Also very North Korea to have like a building with one of the most massive framed pictures on the side. When they're like, oh, you got to use a medium format, high resolution camera if you want to have large prints. North Koreans are like, yeah, we're taking that to another level. This thing physically can't fit inside a building. This picture is 3 stories tall. Anyway. Yeah, a lot of really cool stuff. I actually do not remember this photo from the book, so there might even be a few photos here that he did not include in the book, which is interesting. But let's see. Book itself, the book. Can you still buy it? Sold out. Dang. I wonder if he'll ever... This has been sold out then for years, I feel like. Because I bought one in like 2020 or something like that. 2019 maybe. And it sold out shortly after. And I guess maybe he's never going to do it again, or he'll do it again one day. But I wonder if he ever periodically restocks it and then it resells out. Or if, why would he keep it on his website? Who knows? I would buy old slides, but my family has hundreds taken from 1960s through 1990s. Yeah, in Austin, there's a lot of vintage shops that will sell slide, images. They'll usually have a big light so you can put the images on there and like look and see what they look like. And usually a lot of family photos, stuff like that. And they'll have like just a box of like thousands. Like, I would love to look through each one of these, but I do not have my entire life to to give to this. I wonder if Retrofuturism, is that one sold out? No, still has copies. I wonder if either this one did not sell as well, or if he just printed more copies this time. But interesting. Yeah, so that, anyway... That's Dave. These are his interiors. I want to say that he's from New Zealand, but he might be from Australia. I think the currency was Australian, and I don't know if there's a shared currency or not. Contact. He might say it on his contact. Australia. So never mind. He is Australia. Dave Kulziza. Maybe you guys can email him and say, hello, davekulziza.com. I'd like to buy your book, but you don't have it in stock. Do you hate money? That was his North Korean trip. Oh, I guess this is his artist statement for that trip. Anyway, yeah, really cool book. My biggest concern with it, as much as I loved it, it's probably the most favorite photo book I have. But I do feel like there is an acknowledgement that in order for him to go on this trip, the way that tourism works in most countries, but in North Korea specifically, is it's state run, and any travel agencies that go to North Korea directly pay the government to facilitate those trips. And the government also will provide what they call monitors, who basically make sure that you don't do anything you're not supposed to and you stick within the dedicated tour. And so it's not like it's a North Korean company making money and then they pay taxes to the government. It's like the government directly is involved in the facilitation of all tourism in North Korea. And so if you pay, I think one of them's called like the Young Pioneers or something, but like if you pay these tour groups in China or I think most of them are Chinese, to take you into North Korea and to do the tour, your money on that trip is directly going into, maybe not all of it, but a portion of it is directly going into the North Korean government. And they, of course, use some amount of their entire pool of money to build concentration camps and, horribly treat their own people. And also just in general, beyond the insane torture and conditions in those camps, just the running of North Korea and all the propaganda and the war and, maybe your dollars are only contributing like $1 towards the whole cog and the wheel, but it's like your money did fund the North Korean government and they use their pool of money to do some very atrocious things. And so then if you're me and you bought the book, it's like, do I then have a moral responsibility that, obviously I did not pay to go to North Korea myself, so I haven't directly given any money to the North Korean government, but I gave money to Dave, who was the photographer that made this book, and he gave money to the North Korean government in order to make the book. You can't make the book without paying the North Korean government, essentially, because you can't go to North Korea without your money ending up in their pocket. So it does make me feel like I have some, at least, need to consider the moral implication of, if I buy this book, or having, in this case, having bought this book, do I have any responsibility for, even on a tiny infinitesimal scale, for what happens in North Korea? And I've kind of made the decision that I feel like I do, but I still bought the book, so I don't know if I'm wrong for that or not. Hey, I arrived here in the Instax Wide 300 video. Awesome, welcome. Yeah, we've got the Instax Wide, actually is under some spiderweb decoration, but it's right back there under the blue hat. It serves as a decoration on the channel and for just this room in general, but I love to pull it out and go shoot with it, especially at like parties and stuff. And it's a fun camera. I find also, and I don't know if it's the size. Also, I feel like you joined the conversation right as I start to like drill down on the saddest part of the whole stream, talking about North Korea. But I feel like with the Instax 300, or just Instax Wide film in general, and you guys let me know if I'm wrong for feeling this way. Someone smarter than me can tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I feel like the Instax Wide film is more consistent and has better range than the Instax Mini film. And I don't know if that's a similar concept to, if you shoot medium format film versus 35 millimeter film versus half frame, you start to lose resolution and lose dynamic range. I don't know if that's how it works, but I will say, I also have a Instax, what's it called? Instax, I can't see what it says over there, but it's a Instax mini camera. I think it's like the Instax Mini 70, and fully, analog, Instax Wide 300, fully analog. And when I would shoot with them, granted, I did shoot with the Mini 70 more frequently just because it's smaller, but it did seem like, I could nail shots and they'd look great, but I equally would also get shots that were way too dark or way too bright. And I didn't feel like I had that happen to me as frequently on the bigger wide film. So I don't know, maybe it captures better and it's more consistent in the end result. I've been shooting a lot on the Instax Mini Evo, which is essentially a digital camera with a 5 megapixel sensor that you can then like print the image out if you want to. And I've enjoyed that. But it is not quite the same as a true instant film camera. I don't understand why, but the images from the wide camera are always clearer and better than the mini and square. And it's the same chemicals. Yeah, you would think it's like essentially the same chemicals. I mean, you would imagine it's the same film. They're just cutting it bigger or smaller. But I guess therein lies, the result. It's like slide film is you're creating a positive. And similarly, I guess Instax film or any kind of instant film is probably more similar in that nature. So I don't know. I will say Instax film in general, whether it's mini, square, wide, are way more consistent for me than Polaroid. And actually I have over there I have my Polaroid film. You can't see it. It's over there by the Halloween skeleton guy. But I had that camera since I was a kid. That was my parents' camera that I just messed around with. My first camera, basically. And I've kept it, still works. I also have a few other Polaroid cameras, but I stopped shooting them because it was like the film was so inconsistent. And it was really bad, back when it was the Impossible Project. And they were doing like reverse engineered film because Polaroid didn't exist anymore. And it was like, thankfully we have the film, but this reverse engineering is clearly not as good as just the original recipe. But then they improved on that recipe quite a bit because it used to take like 30 minutes for the film to develop. And they reworked the formula to where it actually develops like within a few minutes now, and is much more like it used to be. And then they bought the Polaroid name. They became Polaroid. So kind of funny how that works. But even to this day, even with all the, they've continuously made improvements to that film. And you got to give them credit for going from being a company that was just like people interested in making, like bringing back film, going through the process of reverse engineering Polaroid's film and coming out with a product that they then continuously made improvements to, and then grew to be a large enough company they were able to buy the Polaroid name and become the very brand that they had been reverse engineering all this time. You got to give them credit for that. I mean, it's a cool story for sure, and it's nice that they've brought that back, but the film just doesn't work the same. Even to this day, even with all the upgrades, all the changes, all the enhancements, it's still pretty inconsistent. And when you compare that with Fujifilm's stuff, which obviously Fujifilm is the original recipe maker, they're still doing it the same way. They have, how many decades worth of knowledge about this stuff, but their film's just so much more consistent. So even though the cameras, maybe are not as iconic as the Polaroid cameras, it's like ultimately, well, and that's the other thing too. I was just about to say, ultimately, I don't want to pay more and get less, but you really do with the Polaroid side, because you only get 8 images per pack, but original Polaroid is 10 per pack, and Instax is still 10 per pack. So it just makes sense and it's cheaper usually to buy Instax film. So it's like, it's cheaper, you get more physical shots, and the consistency is way better. So I do hope Polaroid can continue to improve, though. I got nothing against them. Ironically, in macro mode with a used SQ6 square, I get consistent bokeh in portraits. That does make me think, well, I was going to say something about the Polaroid land camera, but as I thought of it, I also forgot it. I think I have to restart this movie. Or did it already restart? It did. Perfect. We're watching Dracula. I've seen reviews on the Instax mini films. They can vary. Some people shoot them 100%. They have the same challenges with hit or miss shots. They definitely have the same challenges with hit or miss in terms of being too dark or too bright. And sometimes that's down to the camera. I mean, obviously down to the environment that you're in as well. But some of the Instax cameras are a little bit better at the sort of like auto exposure than others, in my experience. But the thing with Polaroid is it seems like you'll shoot the Polaroid film, and it's not whether the shot was correctly exposed or not. It's just that particular pack, for some reason, every shot comes out with like very little contrast. Or you'll do a shot and like the center of the shot just doesn't develop for some reason. The development chemicals don't get spread correctly. And so you just have like this undeveloped circle somewhere on your shot. And I definitely noticed that. And that is not something I've ever had happen to me with I got boxes of Instax film. And, some of the shots were too dark or too bright, but they never failed to correctly develop, at least. And that's definitely been an experience that I've seen with Polaroid film, is that sometimes you'll nail the shot, but it just won't develop. or it'll have a weird section that doesn't develop, or, especially in warmer climates, it's supposedly worse. And that might be why I experience it a good bit here in Austin, because it gets hot down here. Something like that as part of the difference in shooting Instafilm. That's true. That's true. Some people actually do like that. They literally don't know how that instant film is going to come out. It might come out really washed out. It might come out really contrasty. It might have like parts that don't develop, and that's like sought after. So that's definitely true. I think that's the same for film. Like when you look up film shots, it's always like the stereotypical film shot is always a shot that's a little washed out. It's got some kind of light leak from somewhere. It's not maybe quite in focus. And it might have some other imperfection. And that's like, oh yeah, that's film. And for me, as maybe a bit of a perfectionist, someone who tries to like nail those shots, I'm like, a film shot should look as good as a digital shot, just with some slightly different coloring and kind of vibes to it. And of course the grain and everything, but like you should be able to take a film shot that looks like it's the same resolution as a digital shot. And I could pull up some examples here, but I think I'd be preaching to the choir. But that's because there's a little bit of a sought after kind of like, I call it bad film. Like, oh no, you got a light leak in your shot, but it's like, that's something people like. Or shooting an expired film where you're getting all kinds of crazy colors or like weird stuff that comes up. Like some people really do love that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I live in a hot county. I thought it said I live in Hot County. I was like, dang, that's a cool name for a county. I live in a hot county. Here, all the Polaroids turn orange. See, that would be something that would aggravate me if they were just turning orange. I have seen, there's a guy, I think his name is Louis or Lewis. I think it's Louis. He's on YouTube. He's a big Polaroid guy. He does a lot of videos from his bathroom. But he did a video where there was a lot of like orange Polaroids, and I think I would be annoyed by that. But yeah, I guess it would depend. I shot Polaroid in the 80s and 90s. Kept the photos in a photo book. They have faded, but not as bad as I thought they would. The 80s and the 90s, though, that was premium Polaroid. That was like the best 2 decades for Polaroid. I think the Polaroid stuff in the early 2000s from a technological or like quality standpoint was a little bit better, but like the golden age was really the 90s for Polaroid. I actually did a book. God, I wish I had it. I guess it's a lie to say that this is my first photo zine. This is my first photo zine of my own work that I put together myself. That said, I did do a photo zine, or a photo book actually, for my dad, but it was a one-off book. And my dad used to be, he still does, but he was a race car driver for like kind of more amateurish leagues for like Formula 500 and Formula 600 and stuff like that. And so when I was a kid, like minimum once a month, we'd be at the racetrack and he'd be racing. And so I was around that racing culture all growing up. And for Christmas last year or the year before, I thought it'd be really cool to dig through a lot of old photos of his old cars and, times where he was racing and things like that. And he had a lot of Polaroids and just a lot of individual photos that I scanned in and designed a book of all of those photos. And it's really like, it captures a moment when you're looking at a Polaroid, especially one that has, to your point, faded just a little bit. Maybe it's got a little bit of a crinkle to it. And it's like, man, there's something special about that. But at the same time, it's like, well, understandably, these might fade even a bit more. They might get a little bit more damaged or creased. So being able to put them into a book where they'll stay kind of as they are now, 30 years later, but they won't fade, hopefully, too much further, is good. So let's see. My oldest Instax photo is 18 years old. I didn't notice any color change. That's good. Although I will say that is hard to tell. It's hard because it's like 18 years ago versus today. Like, you're working off of your memory, and memory can be corrupted. But generally speaking, you probably would feel like you at least noticed something if it had changed substantially. And it might also depend on storage and but anyway. I shot Kodak 200 in a zone focus camera with limited aperture. The images came out nice and sharp, but definitely have a film look. Sometimes it's hard to tell from digital, depends on the lighting. I mean, honestly, like a great example of a digital camera that does have like strong film vibes to it would be the Olympus E300, E500, a couple other cameras in that lineup. I know the E1 probably get called out here. But they really do. It's the color science, I think. It's the partnership between Kodak, who made the sensor, and Olympus, who's always had great color science. And they supposedly designed that sensor, what was it, for Kodachrome or Ektachrome? Something like that. So they designed the color science to try to mimic that film style. So it's almost like, Fujifilm does all of the color, what do they call it? Simulations. They do all the film simulations. And it's almost like the E300, E500 is literally like the entire camera is an Ektachrome film simulation. Because it really does look like that. And similarly, like the Mamiya 645 Pro, which I shoot, it's right there. When you load, especially like Portra 160 or Portra 400 into that film, and you really nail the shot in terms of, I'm just mainly talking about like you nail the focus, you're using one of Mamiya's sharper lens, and you nail the exposure, aside from the grain, which is less obvious in the 160, obviously, it can sometimes look like, if you pulled that up next to another digital image, I'd be like, yeah, I mean, these are both shot on a digital camera. So if you shoot and you just like really nail that shot, you can make film look as, it's not that it's digital, it's just as clear and crisp and well exposed, and it's like that depth to it. Like digital files do have a little bit more depth to them because you have all that digital information you can manipulate, and film, what you get is what you get. It's more almost like a JPEG in a way. You have less ability to dramatically bring down those highlights or those shadows. Unless you get like a really, really good scan. And then you kind of can, but it's still like the range isn't quite as much. Now, medium format, you get a lot more range when you do a good scan. What was I pulling up here? I think I was trying to pull up like a really good film shot. Now, I've also done some film shots where I was like, okay, these look a little faded. The contrast is definitely... I feel like this is a good, okay, I'm going to bring up, I'm trying to think of like, what do I have an example of that I've shot on both film and digital? And folks, it's going to be the top-notch sign, because it's a sign that I've shot so many times. But sadly also, I've shot it so many times, it's like, which one had good weather that is similar? But I know I shot it on the Pentax 645D. Ooh, okay, folks. Okay, I think this is actually going to be really good. this is going to be kind of neat to compare. There might be a better shot, but I'm going to go with this one. That's wild to me. Okay, let's jump over, and I'm going to get rid of myself here for a moment. Here we go. We're back. Okay, so these are two shots of the Top Notch sign here in Austin. And these are, you know, frankly, different times of day, completely different days, probably different months. Honestly, it might even be from different years. But one of these is shot on the Pentax 645D. I can't tell you what lens, but probably the 45 to 85. Well, based on what this is looking like, I'm going to guess it's actually the 120 millimeter. And then the other one is shot on the 110 for the Mamiya 645 Pro. Can't remember exactly which film I shot, but it would have been Portra. So now my question is, which is which? I know, again, totally different times of day. This is a terrible comparison. And they're not even framed exactly the same. One's a bit wider than the other, but the spot that I'm standing is probably right about the same. Maybe I'm standing slightly closer on one, but I also have a little bit more zoom on one. So just looking at these, which would you say is the film shot and which would you say is the digital shot? And I'll collect your thoughts, and then we'll these are JPEGs, of course, but we'll zoom in and see if like zooming in a little bit makes us feel any sort of way. But yeah, these are the two shots. So we've got right is digital. So dang it, I keep clicking that. So this one here is digital, is what you're saying, and then this one would be the film shot. And then we have, okay, so we have agreement. This is the film shot, and this is the digital shot. Okay. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I always love this sign because it's got so much texture to it. Now this right here is a dead giveaway for which is which. And I'm surprised. I think maybe I just missed focus here a little bit, or maybe I was using a more higher aperture, because it does look a bit dull, I will admit, on this side. It's not quite as crisp as this other side. So this is a dead giveaway, though. I don't know if via YouTube compression, if it's as dead a giveaway as it is for me to look at it here on the screen and in person. But on this side, on the right side, we have a ton of film grain here. And so actually, this one on the right is the film shot. This is shot on the Mamiya 645 Pro with the 110 millimeter prime lens. And likely this is Portra 160 just by looking at the film grain. On this other side, this is the Pentax 645D, most likely with the 120 millimeter, but actually now that I'm thinking about it, it was probably with the zoom lens, the 45 to 85, I think is what it is. So this would have been probably shot closer to like 85 on medium format. I am surprised because the Mamiya one is significantly sharper than this Pentax one, so I might have just messed up on the Pentax side. But yeah, when I pulled these up, same thought. I was like, I can see the film appearance of this one on the right hand side in terms of like the color. Obviously I can see the film grain. You guys, it sounds like can't see the film grain as well through the compression of YouTube, which, to be fair, I think this video probably is streaming in 720p, so that's also going to crunch it down a good bit. But I was surprised when I pulled up the Pentax one here, because the Pentax side, even though the colors aren't quite the same style of like sort of faded look, if that's even what we might call it, but just for the fact that this one was less sharp, it made me feel a little bit more like film. But yeah, that's really surprising. But that just goes to show, like, film compared to digital, you know, on this film one, there's no light leaks. There's no washed out, you know, majorly washed out vibe. The resolution, I mean, is super freaking crisp and sharp in this shot. Apparently more so than even the digital, the truly digital version was. And so it's like, if you shoot film and you really take your time and you nail that focus, you nail your exposure, you don't have light leaks and stuff, you can definitely create an image that would be difficult to discern from a digital image. To be fair, in a way, we are looking at two digital images. But that being said, it's like, obviously this one was film, even though it's scanned in and is now a digital image. Yeah. I wonder, I also have a few, I'd like to pull up, like, so that was the Pentax. Man, I'm a little disappointed in my skills on that Pentax. But that, I actually shot that the first day that I took that camera out. So I'll give myself, I'll give myself a little permission to have not shot it perfectly. What about this shot? Okay, so this is the Canon R7, and this is the most recent shot of the sign. This lens was a bit wider when I shot it because I was standing a lot closer to it. And we definitely have more resolution here, but you know what? It could just be perceived resolution, but I still feel like this film shot is actually still sharper than this one. But, you know, maybe I was more focused somewhere. But I also wanted to see, I know I've shot this on the Olympus camera, probably both the E300 and the E500. Let's see if I've shot it on the E500. Ooh, maybe not. Okay, maybe it was on the E300. Wait. Oh, there it is. Okay. So this is then on the E300. Which it's not going to look as sharp because it is 8 megapixels. So when we start to zoom in, we are going to lose a little bit of that ability to expand, you know, like we have on the Mamiya. We just don't have that. I mean, the Mamiya, the resolution is a lot higher, even though it's film. It's higher than 8 megapixels, I think. The grain was hard to see on the screen. Yeah, that's fair. To be honest, though, this Olympus E300 kind of has a similar look to the, I mean, it's noise, right? It's not grain. It can't be grain because this is a digital camera. And yet, I gotta say, it looks like film grain. It looks like this. I mean, again, I know you guys probably can't see the film grain, but just looking, instead of it looking like noise, it looks like grain, which is interesting. Usually noise, to me, at least, noise looks like noise. I think the Olympus E300, much nicer shot than this, but I think mainly that's because I'm standing at an awful angle. This is a much better angle on the right-hand side than I did with that. I got to go back and reshoot the top notch sign with that Pentax, because I did not nail it. Not that I need it. Apparently, I already have so many photos of this sign. Have you shot that sign at night? I did, and actually, it is a really nice shot. Let me see if I can find it here really quick. It might be a little deeper into my archives, but it's a shot that probably would have been on one of the Sony cameras. And there's a puddle. It was after it had rained. I think there's even maybe a little bit of mist. And Top Notch ended up like reposting it. And I remember that was like the first time. This was like way back in the day. This was like the first time a company or like a brand had maybe reposted something that I had photographed. And I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. CCD sensors do that. I really feel like they do. Like the Pentax, I will say first off, the Pentax 645D, being that it's an older medium format digital camera, you would imagine that the noise would not be good. But then at the same time, you're like, well, it is medium format, so it's got a larger sensor, so maybe the noise actually won't be that bad. And the result is like you can shoot that thing on just about any ISO you want, and the noise just does not get in the way. It's kind of shocking, but especially on the lower ISOs, you either don't really see it or it does kind of look a bit like film grain, which is nice, but it's kind of a low noise beast within the context of what it is. It's obviously, gosh, where's this photo? I think this was back in 2016, maybe. I went back into my archives. I title everything by the year, and I title it year, month, day, and then I typically will put a little 2-3 words about what might be inside the folder. So I'll say like 2016-09-01 light painting. And I know, okay, I was doing some light painting that day. But sometimes you shoot more than one thing in a day. And so it's like, was that a photo walk that I did? Or was it like I went to a carnival and on the way home I got that one shot, and so it's going to say carnival, but then the shot's in there. Actually, I think it's on my Instagram account. I know I've deleted some of the older stuff off of that, but it might be. I only have experience with 35 millimeter film, and I always use. Oop, I just lost it. I didn't see which film it was. Superior Extra 400. For its stability in the heat of 45 degrees Celsius in the summer. Ooh, I wonder what 45 degrees Celsius is for a young Fahrenheit man such as myself. Yeah, when the summer's hot, film... I made a mistake once, and I actually think the film came out okay, but you store your film in the fridge, and one time in the summer, which I usually don't shoot much outside in the summer because when it's like 100, 105, 110, it's like, it's too hot. I just am not going to have fun, and my camera is going to be covered in sweat, and it's maybe not waterproof. But it's like, I took film out of the fridge, immediately unwrapped it and loaded it into my camera and walked outside into like 105 degrees and started shooting. And then immediately was like, oh my God, I hope it doesn't start, condensating inside while I'm shooting. But it actually came out looking okay, if I remember right. And I don't always remember right, so who knows? Gosh, where is this picture? I wonder if I can just pull up my Instagram account online. We're in all caps. Screaming Instagram. I'm probably not logged in though. Instagram.com/Colt Matocha. Does that work? Ooh, it does, but it wants me to log in. But actually, I think it's letting me not. Ooh, okay. Oh, no, it really wants me to log in. If you start to scroll at all, then it's like, do I have my login? You ever realize you don't know your own login because you've had it like saved for so long? Oh, I do know it. And actually by I know it, it's actually my computer just remembered it. Okay, let's jump over here and see if it's on my Instagram. All right. So if we scroll down here, it'd be a ways back. Quite a ways. This was what I was telling you earlier about like some of the stuff that I've shot, which, damn, that does not look good. It looks pixelated as heck. But like stuff around Austin, you like get rid of all the people and you just like photograph some of those places that, you know, may not be there forever. This was a place I wanted to photograph so bad, and I just never went there when it was good light. A lot of those are on film. RIP, Fry's Electronics. You were a real one. Missed this place. Now when you go, you can still see the Fry's Electronics, but they actually took the sign off the piano, which a lot of companies don't do. They'll like move out of a place and then just leave their signage on there. And then so as the place starts to get more decrepit, it just like reflects negatively on their brand. There we go. That was a much faster route. For some reason, the image is not looking very sharp here in the browser. So probably if you go back in time on my Instagram, you can find this and see it in better quality than you're probably seeing it right now. But yeah, this was at night. One very challenging thing about the top-notch sign is there's about 1 million lights, and you will never capture this sign with all the lights lit. There is always a light that is burnt out on this thing. And sometimes there's a significant amount of lights burned out. So on this shot, we had this, it was like they had finally replaced all the bulbs. And I was like, oh, I gotta go while the bulbs are all replaced. And then when I finally get there, this one bulb is out and I'm just like, oh. And then not only that, but there is a red outline that's supposed to go all the way around the burger. If I remember right, I think it goes all the way around the burger. And so that was burnt out too. It's like, damn. But sometimes like the hamburger part will get burnt out because like the light bulbs inside here will burn out. It's probably not a light that's easy to maintain, but they do a fairly decent job of maintaining it. I don't know if they keep it lit at night anymore though. I can't remember now. I'll have to drive by there sometime. But yeah, this was like a friend of mine, and we were driving back from something. I don't even know. And it was very, you can kind of see like misty. It's what I would call fog, but we don't really get fog here very much. And when we do, it looks crazy, but it's not like the fog in like a movie or like up in, I'm sure, New England, where it's like you might literally be blinded trying to drive. At least that's my stereotype of fog. But here it's really more of like a mist. But that mist was still pretty vibey. So I was like, ooh, we should pull over and get a shot. Like the signs lit up. And so we whipped in here and took a shot of the sign. And I think we shot a few other things because it had rained also. So like the pavement kind of has like this glistening effect to it. And you see like a lot of reflection in the sidewalk and the streets and whatnot. Because there's just a little bit of moisture there, which I think works for the image. But yeah, I should go back sometime. We had a pretty big fog, the biggest I've seen, I think maybe ever in my life, here in Austin at least. And I didn't think to go shoot this, but I should have. I don't really mess around with like filters to put on front of the lens. Like I don't really do that, but I'll use an ND filter. Like that's a nifty one. But I bought a few years ago a mist. I think it was like black mist or something, and it's supposed to create more of a glowing effect on lights. And so anyway, that was what I was trying to do before I had that filter. That filter probably would have killed it in this particular shot. And I don't think I've ever even used that filter, to be honest. Like I bought it, I've got it, and I just haven't even bothered to shoot with it, which is, I need to pull it out and do it. I should show you guys an image a friend of mine, really talented photographer. His name's Photo J. He's actually, at this point, he's a Fujifilm ambassador. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if that's his exact title or if he has a different title, but he is partnered with Fujifilm, and he shoots Fujifilm now. We started with Sony back in the day, but I'm going to show you a photo he took. If I can find it. Yeah. Oh God, it still looks good. Had to save it to my saved in Instagram, but it's a outdoor venue here in Austin called Cheer Up Charlie's. A lot of neon. Had this performer, and he stuck like it's like 5 or 8 filters on the front of his lens, which pretty shockingly, this image is still sharp and like high resolution, with the fact that it had multiple filters stacked on the front of it, which was really funny. But he got like this glowing effect. And I mean, this is just a killer shot in general. Like the guy's expression, his guitar, his kind of, the guy's vibes in general are cool. But then you have like this glowing, not of just the neon only, but also his guitar, and even his body kind of seems to glow. And that's, honestly, this is the shot I saw, and I was like, okay, I got to get one of these filters and try this out for myself, because this just looks insane. And then I never did, but maybe at some point I will. I just don't really shoot stuff where it's dark, but there's also a bright light source to then get that effect from. I have to try it. I have to do a video on that. Let's see. I've been posting to Instagram lately. You have, and you've had some killer stuff on there. Not good with keeping up with it. Neither am I. My last post was, I think, in July. So there you go. Let's see. Was it in July? Oh, also a friend of mine. I actually, to be fair, I barely know this person, but she is another photographer in Austin. And this shot's cool, man. Like, this looks like, y'all know the actor William Sadler? He's in like a million things. The thing that I remember him from mostly is the TV show Roswell. I don't know if y'all remember that show that was not long for this world, but was good. But anyway, he looks like William Sadler. Like if William Sadler was a little younger again and was playing in a movie where he becomes a vampire or something, then that's what this dude looks like. But she's also Ava Toast, very good photographer. But anyway, oh, my own page. Yeah, when was the last time I dropped something on here? 15 weeks ago, July 4th, I dropped this image. It looks so pixelated on this screen. I hate it. So yeah, it's been a minute. I should probably post some more stuff on here, but I've been mostly shooting carnivals and candy, and I haven't shot a carnival in a minute. This was honestly the last carnival I shot, and that was back in April. I keep missing them. but I also don't want to post all the candy stuff and give it away before the event. So what do you do? Oh my God, the photo's fantastic. Clone the light. I'm not familiar. Is that like a technique in editing to clone the light? It has a nice moody photo, but the glow of the lights is great. Yeah. And then promised filter. I'll have to see if that's something. I also need to check out, somebody gave me a recommendation of Peter McKinnon, and I've got a sticky note written down, but I haven't looked him up yet. Maybe I will tonight as I'm drifting to slumber. Clone the light for the sign. Yes. Oh, Pro Mist. Yes. It is a Pro Mist filter that I've got. Yeah, clone the light for the sign. Yeah, I thought about it, but I know at that time my skill in Photoshop and just editing in general was bad, and so it looked bad. But I could probably manage to do it now that I have at least a little bit more knowledge of all that. But yeah. Well, I think where are we at here? We're almost at 3 hours again. I meant to just do a 1 hour thing, but I got carried away here, folks. If you didn't get to see the unboxing, there is the book, Photo, gosh, I can't even talk anymore. Sugar Junkie, which is the zine that I created, started really wanting to do this probably like in the early 2020s, and then 2023, longtime viewers of the channel know that's when I really drilled down on, I'm going to make a book. But at that point I was doing the carnival stuff. The candy art was just starting. There was the portrait series I was doing, the Austin series, and I was just pulling myself in too many different directions, so I didn't accomplish it. But then this year I was like, okay, I'm going to really only pursue the candy art stuff. And because I'll only be pursuing that, I'll build up a lot of material that I can then also succeed in getting this book done. And then here we are. Now we have it. It's here. I keep saying book, but it's really a zine. We've got the Photo Zine. And even though I didn't intend to also design it myself, out of necessity, I ended up designing it myself. But I am really very pleased with what I came up with, and it feels like me. So it's one of those things where it's like from conception to creation, it was all my own mind, I guess you could say, that put it together. So success or failure, it's all on me. But I will say I did not print or cut or paste the book together. So I got to give credit to, I think it's called Mixam is the printer that I used. They did a great job. They responded to every question I had. They were very helpful. The pricing was really nice. So very, very pleased. Would go with them again. But if you do want to see more of kind of the pages from the book, I use the Canon to kind of go into video mode and like look through some of the different things in the book, and the colors are better than this particular camera. So that all happened probably about the 25-minute mark or the 30-minute mark of this stream. So for anyone who wants to go back and review that, that's where you'll want to look. And maybe I'll post that in the description so people don't have to hunt around a 3-hour stream for that moment. But yeah, I'm pleased. I was worried it was going to come out all pixelated and all crooked and terrible, because I use Canva to make the layout, and I also have no graphic design experience. But I am very pleasantly surprised. It came out looking really, really nice. So I'm satisfied from that standpoint. If I do another photo book in the future, I'll feel confident now that I can do it all on my own. That said, if I go from doing a zine to like more of a full book, I don't know, something about like the idea of working with a graphic designer who's done photo books, they know what they're doing, and who, you know, has a creative skill that they've developed that I can partnership with them, I think would be really cool. But you know, something in the future. For now, I'm just gonna enjoy the moment. So, congrats. Where's the merch shop? Yeah, you know, I don't have one. There's no merch shop, but what I have been telling folks is, you know, if you want a copy, and you're not someone who lives in Austin where you can attend the reception, shoot me a DM on Instagram or send me a email. My email is on the YouTube account, and yeah, we can just like do something that way. I'll get your shipping address and all that good stuff, and we'll do that. And I guess maybe in the future, if photo zines are popular, maybe I'll look into what it would take to do a shop, but I feel like a shop would be too expensive. I'm trying to sell these as cheaply as I can, because I really just want to get the work out there. And, you know, I have a day job, so I don't really need to make any money off of it. But I am also going to send a copy to Ted Forbes with Art of Photography. And hopefully he will review it in his photo book reviews that he does. I think it would be really cool. I'm sure he probably will have some opinions about like the physical book and like maybe some of the design, but and you know, I'll accept that criticism or feedback that he has. But being that I'm not really a graphic designer, I'd be more interested in what his thoughts are on the actual images in the book. Less about the actual presentation and more just like, what does he think of the work? Would be interesting. So I do think this book is very different than what he normally reviews. So there is a chance that he would include this zine. So that would be cool. We'll see if it happens. But I will send him a copy, and we'll see if it ends up. If it does, maybe we'll live stream watching it and reacting to it. And that would be really funny if he just like absolutely rips it apart and I start crying on stream. But yeah, anyway, from what I saw and being a graphic designer, it looks fantastic. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll have to get your feedback on the design choices that I made and what you think of everything. I didn't do anything too crazy where I could like really fail, but yeah, I'm sure there's things that I'm not even aware of that go into making things. So anyway, that's the book, Sugar Junkie by moi. And yeah, hit me up if you want a copy. And then if you are in Austin or you're around Austin, of course you could also hit me up, but I will have these physically available at the gallery reception in February if you're interested in that. But I think that's probably going to bring it to the end for me. I need to get prepared for going to sleep. So yeah, I appreciate you guys jumping in here. We had someone new in here also, which is really cool. And I appreciate everyone else who jumped in and chatted with me. Always makes it a lot more fun. And I always go much longer when I have folks to talk with. And so that's always great. But also, as I always say, I said at the beginning too, if you're watching this after it's over and it's not live, definitely still drop comments if you have questions, if you have thoughts about things, because I always go back and try to respond to every comment that I get. And so even if you're not watching it live, you can definitely still be a part of the conversation. Or you can even throw out ideas for future topics in streams. So that works too. But yeah, otherwise I appreciate you guys jumping in. And again, 25 to 30 minute mark is where I do the unboxing and go over some of the different parts of the book. If you have a like to spare, always appreciate it. Helps us out. And if you're new to the channel or you're new to this video and you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell. That'll keep you in the know for when the next stream happens or even for any of the videos that I post. And the Halloween episode is coming, so be prepared for that. Probably going to drop on October 26th, so just a few days before Halloween hits. So otherwise, folks, that's it for the stream. Thank you all for jumping in and watching. And otherwise, I'm Colton, and I'll see you in the next one.